Welcome to the class. Yesterday we saw ITSM overview, and right now we are looking at that syllabus, which is generally not a part of CSA, but important for you to understand the ServiceNow ITSM part and how do these different processes coexist? How do these different processes correlate? So as a part of the syllabus yesterday, we talked about ITSM. We have incident, problem, change. We have a lot of processes. I mean, there are 34 practices in fact, but then when you implement ITSM in ServiceNow, from ServiceNow perspective, they offer generally incident, problem, change, request, knowledge, and service portal, and CMDB. These are basic things which are offered in ServiceNow ITSM suite, which means there is a difference in itil ITSM overview as well as ServiceNow ITSM. So ITIL or ITSM overview as per ITL, they have a lot of processes there. But as far as ServiceNow, they have kind of bifurcated them, split them into multiple different areas. For example, some part of configuration management happens during IT operations management in discovery, in service mapping also. Some part of, and the entire part of event management that happens in IT operations management. So there are different modules in ServiceNow which kind of offers those functionalities. But this is where I just want to make you understand there is a bit of difference between ServiceNow ITSM and ITIL. And from ServiceNow ITSM perspective, we'll talk more in terms of incident, problem, change, request, knowledge, and portal. So request, knowledge, and portal. If you see in this course, we have covered request here already. We have covered knowledge here already. And we have covered portal also here. We've covered all these three things already in our syllabus. So the three next things which we have to understand or cover as a part of the syllabus is incident, problem, and change. These are three major practices or processes which we need to cover for ServiceNow ITSM. Okay. Now let's go back to the system. Let's go back to this presentation and let's understand at a high level what does this look like. So how will I take it further? That I'll tell you about the process in theory first, and then we will see it in practical immediately in the system in ServiceNow incident management module. Yeah. So when I say ServiceNow incident management process follows these steps. Now, these steps are similar steps which are followed even from ITIL process definition perspective. So which means even when you study ITIL or study IT service management and you study incident management practice or incident management process there, it has a similar flow. Not much of a deviation. You might have some things here and there, yes or no conditions in the flow, which is different, which is okay. We don't need to go through all of those ifs and buts condition. Generally, the flow remains same even in ServiceNow as well as in, I mean, they are aligned to the ITIL framework, so not much deviation there. So that is something good. Now, what happens here, right? So understand this first. First of all, the very first step is to identify the incident. And how do you do that? So you can identify an incident using multiple ways. For example, somebody is calling you on phone and they're telling you that we have a problem here, we have an issue here. Second, you have a lot of monitoring systems in place. Even from them, you can have a flow, you can have knowledge of an incident. I mean, that system can tell you that, okay, there is something wrong, there is an alert, which might lead to an incident. So that is another way of finding it out. Third is sometimes we give that option to users on the portal. If you remember, we have seen the concept of record producer in ServiceNow, where they have the option to raise an incident directly from the portal. That is third way of doing it. Fourth is somebody is raising it manually in system based on any phone call. And then you have this option of email, right? So if you remember in one of the topics, we talked about inbound actions in ServiceNow, which means you have this capability to transform an email into a task here in ServiceNow. Now here, when I'm talking about task, as task is a very big table, it contains a lot of incidents, problem, changes, request, and many more things as well. In this particular context, I'm talking about task as an incident, which means you have the capability to configure an email, configure an action, which happens on the basis of an email, with the help of which you can raise an incident in system, right? Automatically. So if you remember, we had discussed about it earlier that the caller field can be taken from who has sent the email, the subject line will become the title of the incident, the body will become the description of the incident, the timestamp, the email will become the time incident was opened. So all of those mandatory fields which you require to raise an incident will be shown, will be filled automatically based on email. So in the first step, what we understood is that there are a lot of means of identification. There is no one single means of identification. You can identify it by multiple means. web interfaces, you get phone calls, emails, monitoring systems. Somebody is telling you, coming to a desk and telling you, this is where I have a problem, can you please fix it for me, right? There are multiple ways of identifying an incident. First thing that you identify the incident. Now, once you have identified it, then the very first step is to log it in system. Because without having a record in system, you'll not be able to manage it. You'll not be able to do anything around it, right? Because you need to have some reference in the system to show you that this is an incident record for which I am talking. Because whatever you are going to do after that, the resolution part, the diagnosis part, the escalation part, the communication part, whatever you have to do on that particular incident will happen only with the help of that record. So that is why the first thing is, once you have identified it, that it should be recorded in system as an incident. Now, in case of event management, in case of data coming from monitoring systems or data coming from emails, it would be an automated thing, even from web portal. In these three cases, it will be logged automatically. Because that is the functionality we are providing there, right? In case of only phone calls or somebody walking to your desk, you are logging it manually. So once you've logged it, then the next step is to categorize it. Now, why do we categorize an incident? So if you remember, when we've seen those fields in our system, that there was a field called category, subcategory, and based on that, we were auto assigning the incidents to a certain team. Like software, hardware, you can have multiple things. You can have your own categories. You can have your own assignment lookup rules, with the help of which you can auto categorize incidents and as auto assign the incidents to certain teams. So this is where these categories help you in that facility, that it kind of auto assigns ticket. Or when you do reporting at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you'll find out what kind of incidents do I get most. Then you can take some corrective actions, right, as a part of problem management later on. As a part of service improvement, you can do that. So that is why the categories are important. Now, once you categorize it, under which category does it fall, then you have to prioritize it. Now, why do we do priority? So we have talked about that concept again, that priority is a function of urgency and impact, which means how much impact this incident has and how fast we have to fix this incident is called as impact and urgency, right? And based on that, priority is auto calculated. So you can configure, so all of these things, right? The way the incident is identified, the way the incident is logged, the way the incident is categorized, all of these things can be customized, can be configured, but from the process perspective, they remain same, which means you will have to do all of these things. Whatever configuration you have in the backend is fine. It will just change the priority 3 to priority 4 or 4 to 1 or 2, whatever, right? But then you will still have to prioritize the incident. Now, why do we do it? You do it because based on the priority, your response times are defined, the resolution times are defined, which is where we talked about the concept of SLA yesterday. That is why I was focusing quite a lot on those definitions yesterday, which would help you that why do we need to define SLAs? How will it impact my service delivery, my service offerings? This is where it impacts it. So you have signed an SLA of priority 130 minutes resolution. Then you must the first step is to prioritize that incident as a priority 1 incident, so that people can behave accordingly, they can respond accordingly, they can resolve it accordingly, right? That is why you prioritize it. So these are things which you do during the logging, because at the time of logging itself, you have all those fields called category, priority. We'll see that in system in just a minute. Just talking about the process flow right now. Then you have the incident response, right? Now, how do you respond? First of all, you do some kind of initial diagnosis. So if you remember, we were talking about those questions that since when have you started facing this problem? Are others users also facing the problem? Are you facing it only for a particular software or a particular hardware or a particular application? You're facing with the entire system, right? If there is a login issue, everybody is not able to log in, or is it only you who's not able to log in? Did you recently change your password? Did anything change in the system? So all those basic questions of troubleshooting, of initial diagnosis do happen when you do the incident initial diagnosis. Now, based on that diagnosis, you might escalate it. So for example, the incident is with service desk. They might not be able to resolve it themselves because it is not a known issue, for example. They don't have any documentation around it. They will escalate it to the L2 teams. Now, if it is a database incident, that is where categorization will help you. Now, if, for example, you've defined that it is a database category incident, you will assign it to L2 or L3 database team. Similarly, if it is a network incident, you'll assign it to L2, L3 network team. This is called as functional escalation. When I say functional escalation, I mean to say that because your team is not capable or is not responsible for resolving those kind of things, that is why you escalate it to the right team who can fix it. Because if it is a database issue and you're not a database expert, you will not be able to fix it, right? So in that case, escalation matters. L1, L2, L3, whatever you want to do. Sometimes you need to, for example, if it is an application level issue, which is an internally developed application, and you are supporting it and you cannot fix it right now, so you might need to escalate that incident to the L3 team, which is actually development team. There might be some people from development team who are responsible for fixing your incidents, right? Generally, the flow is that it goes to service desk. Service desk can escalate it to the right functional teams, app support teams, network support, technical management teams, application management teams. If you remember, we talked about that concept yesterday when we were talking about functions in IT operations, that there is a concept of technical management team, there is a concept of functional management team, application management team, depending on their roles and responsibilities. So to those people, they'll escalate the incident. Sometimes the incident needs to be escalated to the management because it is like priority 1, priority 2 incident, kind of a major incident. At that time, they'll have to inform their management and loop them in and ask from them, what should we do? What should we do? Should we invoke BCP? Right? All those things. So that is why you can have escalation at a level of functional as well as at a level of hierarchical, which is more of management level escalations. Then you do investigation diagnosis from your side. Based on whatever you have found. For example, you have found that the application is responsive. Sorry, an application is not responsive because you don't have much space, or there was a service which was stopped on the server and you're restarting that service. So you have already found that information during your investigation diagnosis here, and you have restarted the service. Now see, this investigation and diagnosis is different from the investigation diagnosis you do during problem management, because there you do it quite at a deep level so that you can fix the problem completely. In this case, when you're actually working on incident, as I said, the only objective of incident management process is to ensure that service is restored as quickly as possible and impact to the business is minimized. So at that time, you will not be doing a very deep dive analysis. However, you will at least do that level of diagnosis, which will help you to resolve the problem immediately, that you need to restart a server, you need to restart a service, you need to do something, which does not require a deep level of understanding, deep level of analysis. That is what you do. So once you've identified that part here, you resolve it and service is recovered. This is called as resolution recovery. That, for example, you have to restart server, you have restarted the server, and now service is recovered. You have restarted the service, server is recovered, and because of that, even application is recovered. And then once you've confirmed with the user that this is what has happened, then you close the incident eventually, right? Or they can close it themselves if you give this option to them that we have resolved the incident. So you mark it resolved from your side. Now you have both the options here. I mean, you can auto close incidents. For example, sometimes users do not respond that, okay, they are happy. So which means if you do not get a response within a certain time period, which means maybe 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, you can auto close the incident. Sometimes people do that. I mean, this is a general practice which happens in most organizations. Your job is to mark it resolved and communicate to user that this has been done. Now it is up to them whether they confirm or not. If they confirm, fair enough. If they do not confirm, then sometime you might be able to auto close it. You can do that, right? This is where, so you have these states in incident, and so all of these are actually corresponding to these things. So new is that stage where you have logged the incident, you've identified it, and the incident has been logged, and it has been categorized and prioritized. All of these things are at the new level. When you've assigned it to somebody and somebody is doing the initial diagnosis or escalating it or doing all of these things, all of these 3 things, right? At that point of time, the incident is in progress. When you have done the resolution based on the diagnosis investigation, you mark it resolved. And as I said, after resolution, either user can mark it closed, you can mark it closed if you have the rights, or you can automatically close the incidents based on certain conditions. Now here, what happens sometimes? sometimes when the incident is in progress that they are doing, for example, I am asking information of the user that this is, and I have not got a response from the user. Now, what will happen in this case? Which means my SLAs will be impacted because system will think that, okay, I am supposed to respond to this incident in 30 minutes. I have already responded in 5 minutes. Now I am waiting for user to provide me more information so that I can do my diagnosis. I can take those necessary actions to progress it further, but you have not got that information from the user. So there are multiple reasons to put things on hold. You are waiting information from the user, you are waiting information from vendor, you are waiting you already have a problem report which is supposed to be fixed. At that time also you can fix it on hold because a waiting problem. We'll show that in system risk in some time. So there are cases when you put incident from progress to on hold. Now, when you are updating it back, it automatically changes to in progress. So on hold, you've got the information from the user, and now you've updated it. Based on that, it will again be in progress, right? Now, or else there is no action for you. Auto close, auto fix, you can directly mark resolve. And there is an option of cancelled. For example, that somebody's reported an incident and it happened only to him and it was his own side of issue. You don't want to track it. You don't want to do anything there. You don't want to do. So in that case, you might cancel the incident also. So that is also an option of or somebody has raised it by mistake, duplication of incidents. So you can cancel it in that case also. This is the normal flow of the incident management process of itil as well as in ServiceNow. Let's see in system. Do you have any questions in this process flow? If not, we can go back to system and you can see how does it actually happen in the real time. Now, I go on incident, and I am assuming right now because there is a monitoring system from which the data is coming to me. There is no email which I have written to configure the automated incident creation, right? There is no web portal where I am raising the incident from. So, assuming the case that somebody is calling me on phone and I am raising an incident on their behalf. Okay, that is case. That is why I am creating it manually. In those automated cases, generally, most of the things get auto-filled. Now I'm just, see, right? In the case of automated system, number, color, category, description, short description, most of the things get auto-filled because we already have that information from those sources. Now, for example, I'm just using somebody, let me use Abraham Lincoln himself. So he is a caller who is calling me to raise an incident. Category, these are some default categories which you have in system. You can always create more categories, subcategories around. Maybe network. In subcategory, I say VPN, right? This is the level of thing I know I want to do. Which service? So let me see if there is something called network here. Yeah, so you have a service called network monitoring security. I have just filled it. Now see what happens here, right? There are a few things which you need to understand. For example, this is where you can see that whenever this caller has called, he has also reported some more incidents. You can see that here. So you can see that this caller has reported some more incidents. See this caller Abraham Lincoln. These are the incidents he has reported already. You can see that first. Second thing you can see is the user record. For example, if you want to see some information around this user, you can go here and you can see that report. Okay, this is phone number, all of that information. Okay, fair enough. Now, even service you've selected, there are two things, dependency map. So for example, if I were to open a dependency view, I can see that this service is related to so many things in the upstream, downstream. We understood that when we're talking about CMDB. I mean, I don't find any relationship right now, but if you remember, we have seen some cases where you had the relationship upstream as well as downstream. So you can see that thing as well, okay, where all it is impacting. Maybe for this particular service, I have an offering which I can select here. There is no offering, so no need to select anything here. Configuration item, right? So maybe if I select, so I have selected, for example, storage area and network 001, right? Just because that is what he has told me. This is that item which has the problem. So if you remember, we talked about configuration items yesterday, and also when we talked about CMDB, that what is the configuration item. Now you can see the dependency view here for that configuration item. If there is any relationship, you will be able to see that. If there is no, you will not see it. So here you can see Yeah, so there are so many things dependent on this particular mass storage device. So it will have impact on email application. It will have impact on so many things, right? That you can see from here. So you can understand the criticality of the issue. Now, contact type. If you remember, we just talked about it. Alert is that monitoring tool thing. Email, we already know in modern actions. Phone, we are doing right now. Self-service, any from portal. Virtual agent, that okay, that chatbot, if you remember, we saw in the portal. From there also you can raise it. Walk in, somebody is coming to the desk and asking you about it. So in this case, maybe a phone call, right? So I can. This is where you optimize the service further. Right now, people are calling you. Let them raise it from the interface. Let them raise it from automated system so that you can quicken this process and reduce the mean time to resolve the incident, right? In this case, now I'm, for example, I am assigning this to network team because it is a network issue. So I can auto populate this thing or I can manually populate this thing. And I'm just saying test incident. Okay, now after doing that, so here you can see there are knowledge bases also based on the test incident for networks, based on the information I have put in my short description, I'm getting some knowledge bases here. It is up to me whether I want to use it or I don't want to use it. So you can see knowledge as well as catalog, both the things are here, right? But we are just looking at knowledge right now from our perspective. Now I submit this report, I save it. Now after I've saved it, so now because it is assigned to somebody and I want to change the status from new to in progress, for example, and I want to save it again, then I can assign it to somebody from this group. There is no one in this group. Interesting. So maybe I just look for this particular thing. Let me just assign it to somebody. Assign it here. Saved it. So now, right now the state is in progress. So that same thing that we talked about in the state, that we have identified the incident, we have logged it, we have categorized and prioritized it also. So here we have done the priority. So if you remember, we said earlier, the priority is an auto-calculated field based on impact and urgency. So if I do 1 and 1, the priority will change to critical. See this, if I do this 2, medium, it will do something here, right? So this is how you change the priority. And because you're doing a priority change, there is a thing that priority change because of whatever reason. Saved it. So now it is assigned as well. So all of those things which we talked about here in terms of identification, logging, categorization, prioritization, all of that is done. Now I am doing my diagnosis, escalation, investigation, whatever I'm doing it. If I were to assign it to, for example, I realize now that it is not something can be solved by hardware team. It should be reassigned to software team. I can do that, right? I can configure my SLAs. So right now, let us see if there are any SLAs already there in system, because I have not configured anything. If there is something out of the box, you can find it. So here you can see, right? So again, earlier it was priority 5. That is why the SLA was different. Now we have changed the priority to 2. That is why the SLA has changed from priority 5 to priority 2. And interesting part is that this particular item, which is SEN 001, it also has an SLA associated to it as a part of underpinning contract. So if you remember yesterday when we were talking about SLA thing, we said SLAs are dependent on OLAs and UCs. When OLAs were operational level agreements, and UCs were underpinning contracts with the supplier. This is within the support teams. This is for the supplier. In this case, in this particular case, you have an underpinning contract with the supplier who says, I will solve it only in 3.5 hours, right? So this is where you can see all the SLAs, you can see the CIs, you can see affected services, you can add more services if you think there are more services impacted because of this. If it is a master incident and you have a lot of child incidents, for example, somebody is saying that I am not able to log in, and there is one more incident for you to say that automated incident saying that web server goes down, which means that would become the master incident. Everything, wherever anybody is calling you and saying I'm not able to log into this application, all of them will become child incident for that parent incident. And the reason we do that, there is no point in managing multiple incidents of the same nature. If they are same, you kind of fix the master incident and the child incidents can be automatically closed. If it is happening because of any alert coming from any monitoring tool, it would have been associated here. If you want to create some task, for example, in this incident, if you think there are 2 or 3 teams who have to work on it together, maybe one task is for network team, one task is for monitoring team, one task is for database team, you can create all those tasks here, right? Now affected, forget about this part right now, it is not important for you. And locations, if there are multiple locations impacted, you can also select multiple locations. Sometimes there are requirements to select multiple locations also. Now, once you've done it, you've seen all of that, right? Now you've done the initial diagnosis, and now you are kind of changing that. Okay, I want some information. Now see this on hold. There are 3 or 4 reasons already inbuilt for on hold. You can always configure this. You can always have more values here depending on the use case. In this case, you are waiting some information from caller. You are waiting some information from a change record, which was already there with this incident. You are awaiting problem to be resolved, because if you remember, we said yesterday, the problem is the cause of one or more incidents. So if there is already a problem in the system raised, you have associated this particular incident to that problem record, and that problem is not yet closed, and the incident cannot be closed either, unless you've given a workaround at the incident level, which is a different story. Or awaiting vendor. For example, this is a third-party supplier issue. In this case, as you've seen, the storage area network 001 is a item which has an underpinning contract with it, which means it is a third party. So you can also put awaiting vendor. You can't do much about it unless you're getting information from these people, right? Now you save this record. Now it says vendor ticket. Now here, the moment you selected vendor here, there is one more tab which opens vendor and vendor ticket. Which vendor ticket? Who is the point of contact of the vendor, right? Similarly, if I do maybe awaiting caller, if I save it, then it will ask you what is that information you are waiting from caller. Put it here first. Don't just put the status from awaiting caller. Awaiting change, then it will expect you to raise it will expect you to associate it to a change record, I guess. For awaiting change, it does not ask me to raise associated. I mean, ideally speaking, you should have some changes associated to this particular case where it is expecting you to raise a change record. Awaiting problem. Let's see if it asks. So generally, it should ask, if you are awaiting problem, it should ask you a question, what is that problem record which you're talking about? Let's first understand that. So the idea is that these are various states in system. These are on hold things. And now when you've got the update, you can move it back to in progress. You have got it in progress. You have saved it. Now you want to resolve it. Now, when you want to resolve it, you have already understood the answers. You know the reasons. So you can put all of that information, resolution code, how I am resolving. Am I putting a workaround? Am I solving it permanently? Remotely? Yeah. So something which is happening online using a screen share, something of that sort. Not solved, not reproducible, too costly. So a lot of things could be there, right? I'm just putting a test workaround. I'm saving. My incident has been marked as resolved. So we've just seen everything whenever the incident life cycle, and then you have this option of closing. Because I am an administrator, so I have the option to close incident. So the moment I close it, all of these fields will become read only. Let's see. This is the one we I think opened just now. So it is closed. So most of the fields will become read only already, because you have resolved it, closed it. So we have completed the entire life cycle of this incident here. New, in progress, on hold, resolved, closed, and cancelled. You can cancel an incident if you think it is not required. We've done all of that, right? Based on diagnosis, you might select. So when you do the diagnosis, that is where you select the configuration item. You can select the service, you can select the service offering, you can select multiple things here, right? Based on your diagnosis, whatever the subcategories. Maybe you think the category subcategory itself is different now, what it was earlier. You can change that as well. You can reassign it to different team based on the functional requirement, whoever supports that particular thing. So this is how you follow the entire incident process. Now, if you don't have any questions on incident management process, we can further take it to problem management and change management. So from here itself, now it is actually right now a resolved, closed one. That is why you're not able to see anything. Let me see maybe a resolved incident or all incidents for that matter. Just opening something which is not closed, right? Maybe, yeah, in progress incident. Now from here, let's save it. From here, you can do create problem record, create a request, create a normal change, create a child incident, create a work order, create a standard change, create an emergency. So there are so many things you can do from the incident record. Now, again, it is an overview session, so we will not go much into detail, but then the idea is that incidents, problems, and changes are linked together. And that is what we learned as a concept yesterday when we were reading those definitions of incident, problem, change. So if you remember, we said problem is an underlying cause of one or more incidents. For example, you do not know the root cause of the incident and you want to, it has happened multiple times. It is on priority now. So you want to open a problem record, which can help you to do the root cause analysis. Now, after that root cause analysis, if you think that there is a problem somewhere in the setting of the system, or you have to rebuild the system, then you will raise a change record from that problem. And once you implement that change, then problem can be automatically closed, and incident can also be automatically closed because the underlying issue has been resolved. So there is a very, very deep relationship between an incident and a problem and a change, which you need to understand when you do implementation of ITSM. That to investigate the incident, to do the root cause analysis, you do the problem management, you open a problem record, and to fix that problem permanently, you open a change record. Once the change gets implemented successfully, problem will be closed and the resultant incidents will be closed. Let's see this from here. Now I'm creating a problem record. So let's see what happens. I'm creating this problem record. Few things have been filled automatically: impact, urgency, problem statement, description. All of that has been filled automatically. Now, if I select category as software, for example, subcategory as operating system, service, whatever service I want to select, maybe again the same network. Now you can auto-populate these things based on certain rules and system. You can just write some scripts, business rules, client scripts, and based on that, whenever you're copying a record from incident to problem, you can tell the system that copy all of these things, because all the same fields were there in incident also. So why do we want to do that again? There is no value. System is little slow. Okay. Maybe I select anything right now. My focus is not to show which CI I'm selecting. My focus to show you that that how do I raise the problem record, right? Problem is already created. Assignment group. Here you want to, so generally in problem management, you assign it to a central team which has a problem management, right? So problem, I would say, problem admin, right? So they are the people who coordinate the problem. So generally you don't assign the problem to the support team. You assign the tasks. So there is a central problem management team which looks after the governance part of all the problems. They do that stakeholder management, and then they create tasks for those people, for those teams, whatever teams they expect are there in that particular thing, right? Now you'll see certain things before. So that is why this particular group is a restricted group. You don't assign it to any group randomly. You assign it to a particular group which deals with problems, and then they are responsible for creating tasks for different teams, right? Now see this, because I have created this problem from this incident, that is why I can see this incident being put in here automatically, right? This first. Second thing is, if I were to add more incidents to the problem, because I know that this problem I have seen, and I've seen the multiple incidents here, I can add multiple incident records to the same problem, because problem is the underlying cause of one or more than one incident. If you remember what I'm saying. I've selected, I've added these incidents. But then if you were to find out what was that first record because of which this problem record was created. You would find it out from here. First reported by this incident. Okay, that is an interesting bit here. Now, let's see something. We'll do that. Resolution, other information. There's so many things here, right? Now, what you see here, after that, you take it to assess stage. Now, you've created the problem, which means the first step of problem, which is problem management. Sorry, identified log problem, which is done. We have created a problem. We have associated the problem to a configuration item. We have associated the problem to incidents. We have done all of that because we know which CI has a problem, how many incidents are impacted because of the problem. We have already found it out. Now, after doing that, next step is to investigate and update problems and using problem tasks. So right now, the problem management team is assessing this problem. Is it the right problem, first of all? Is it not a duplicate one? No. So this is a unique problem, which is first reported by this incident, and that is why we are okay. Do you think it requires that level of investigation? Because problem management is a time-consuming thing. It is not a one-day thing, right? It takes sometimes weeks, days, months. So problem management has to be done quite subjectively in terms of understanding that do we really need to do problem management here, right? That depends on impact, urgency. That depends on how long will it take to fix the problem, how many teams will be involved, how much cost will be there, how much time will it take. So there are a lot of cost benefit analysis which goes into problem management process. So it is a mature, it is a, I would say a more mature process than incident management, which requires more knowledge of systems, more knowledge of a lot of things to do this, right? Now, if they assume that, okay, I'm good, I want to move it to assessment stage because I think we are good. So they have clicked on assess. Once they click on assess, they'll have to fill few fields. Now, to whom do I want to assign it to? Maybe I assign it to problem. See, if you remember, I talked about there are these three roles: problem coordinator, problem manager, problem administrator. Maybe I am assigning it to problem manager. I've assigned it now. Now, he is the one who is supposed to assess this problem first, whether it is all good. Can we move it forward? Then this guy is looking at it. He can see all of the information, whatever is put in here. He says, yeah, I think it is not a duplicate. So I'm not marking it duplicate, because if it is duplicate, then this problem record will not be moved further. It will be closed. It will be linked with the original one. If I say confirm, which means I am okay to move it forward to root cause analysis. So at this point of time, they are assessing it, and this person is assessing it. They've confirmed, yes, all is good. Let's move it to root cause analysis. But they have taken to root cause analysis. Now, at this point of time, you might have tasked multiple teams. You have created a task for network team, you've created a task for. I'm not doing it because it will just consume time, but you understand the concept that from here, I can create tasks for different teams, and all of those teams are working on the task together. Now, what happens? Now, either once they've identified the root cause, this is where they can put the information, right? Maybe this is the test workaround, test cause. I'm just putting anything right now. They have done that information, and they say, okay, which means we have done the root cause analysis. We know the workaround, we know everything, and we can move it further, which means we want to fix it. So there are two options here. Either they want to fix it. In that case, it will move to fix in progress stage. Or if they accept the risk at this time that, okay, I cannot solve this problem because it requires a lot of time and efforts, a lot of cost to solve this problem, I am okay to accept the risk. So I will accept risk, and the problem will be resolved immediately, and it will be in the state of accepted risk. Right? So it can go anyway. Right now, I will go the normal way that, okay, I want to fix it, and I'm saying fix in progress. And when I say fix in progress, it will ask me to put certain things here, cause notes. They'll become mandatory. So what are the cause notes? What happened and how will you fix it? Test fix notes, for example. I'm coming here, I'm clicking OK. Now I have come to fix in progress. I have done the fix in progress now, which means there must be some tasks which some teams are working on, and based on, and I am right now raising the change request also, that as a part of this change request, this problem will be fixed. For example, it requires a change in the server setting, or it requires a change that you need to rebuild the server. All of that activity will happen from here. And you can create a normal change or an emergency change or a standard change. We'll talk about it later on, what is the difference between normal, standard, emergency. But you can create a change record from here, which will come up here, and you can implement the change record. Once it is done, this problem will be automatically closed, right? Now, if I have done fixing progress, which means I am interested to fix it and there are multiple teams working on it, there is a change request raised for it already, and I do not want to reanalyze it, because if I click on reanalyze here, it will go into root cause analysis once again, because I don't think it is the correct root cause and I think I should be reanalyzing it. I will do this, right? Or accept it. So these two options will be there. But even at this stage, I say, no, I won't accept this. I don't want to resolve it. Fair enough. You can do that. Resolve, which means fix has been applied. This fix has been applied with the help of a change record. There must be a change record on the backend. Now, this is where you can do the configurations in the company, that whenever I say fix applied, I must associate with a change record, depending on the situations. But this is one of the cases which you can do that, or maybe you can give a warning message saying that, are you sure you have applied fix without raising a change record? And people are, they will be forced to attach a change record to this problem record. This is how it happens. Okay, again, reanalyze it. No, I'm not happy. I don't think there's a problem. You'll go again to root cause analysis. Otherwise, I'm just following the normal process. I click on complete, and the problem record is closed. Everything is done. I've done the analysis, resolution information, fixed notes I've given. There is no other information I require here. No analysis. Everything is here. And all of these problem tasks are here. You could have a change record from here. And all these incidents. Now you can put you can put some properties, you can put some configuration saying that whenever I mark the parent problem as a closed, then all my incidents should be automatically marked and resolved or closed status. You can do that. It is not happening out of the box. You can do that if you want. You can communicate this workaround. Okay. You can communicate this fix, whatever fix and workaround you have applied here as a part of your analysis. You can do this. For example, if we do this, so maybe you have defined some something in the backend that for this particular thing, you need to communicate this back to the problem manager or all those teams. Then it will send an email automatically to those people. Communicate fix. You can, okay, I have fixed it. I am telling you that what is the fix I've applied. I am just communicating it back. I can do that as well. Right? So after I do that, like I can do all of that, which means I can communicate the problem, I can communicate the fix. So this is the entire problem management cycle. And if you remember, we talked about it all the time, that you have an option to reanalyze it. You have an option to accept the risk. The moment we accept the risk, in that case, for example, if I just do this, in this case, reanalyze, it will go to root cause analysis. Okay. Now I'm saying accept risk. I'm not fixing it now. I'm saying accept risk. Then see what happens. Risk accepted is the resolution code. Why are you accepting this? Because it is too costly to fix this problem permanently. So that is why I am accepting the risk. Fair enough. Okay. Workaround applied. Yes, workaround applied. This is the workaround we have done here. Okay. Fair enough. And then the problem will be closed. But the resolution code will not be fix applied. It will be risk accepted. That is where the difference is. All right. Now, again, the same thing, communicate fix, you can do from here as well. Now, this is what happens as a part of problem management flow, that you investigated problem, you update a problem task, you resolve it, implement it, change known errors also, right? So if you're accepting the risk, which means you have a known error documentation which tells you that you have found out the root cause of this, you have documented it, and because of some reasons, you're not able to fix it permanently. That is why you're living with this workaround. So that workaround will be captured in a knowledge base as a known error, which is called as known error database. We talked about it yesterday in our definitions, right? If there are no questions on problem management, then we can move ahead to the change management part. Okay. Now let's see what happens here for change management. I think we've covered all of this. Yes. We've got it. So when you say change management process, now again, when do you implement the change? So the same use case which we have been talking about, that based on incident, you have raised a problem record to investigate it, and now you have found out that it requires a change to be done on multiple servers. to fix this problem permanently. That is definitely one of the biggest use cases for change management. Second use case is that your customers, the users are asking for some enhancements. That is also a reason of change management, request for change, RFC. You have a situation where you have to do some kind of, you are in competition with the market, and there are a lot of your competitors who are doing multiple things. To make sure that you stay updated in the market, you have to enhance the systems accordingly. It is a business driven or a market driven requirement which you have to do. Maybe some compliance reasons, some regulatory reasons, right? Some user, just to make system little user friendly, you want to patch things. For example, database patching, your server patching, your network patching, maintenance upgrades, hardware upgrades, software upgrades, security patches. There's so many things which you have to do in an organization to ensure that you are compliant, to ensure that you are updated, you are meeting the demands of your clients, customers, you are meeting the demands of regulators. And so there are so many things for any organization because of which they have to go into change management process. It is a very important process because I'll tell you one more thing that, for example, if a change goes not as expected, I mean, it fails, it can cause an incident also. That is why I would say, in fact, your 50% incidents, and this has been kind of established fact over a period of years, that 50% incidents are caused because of changes, which means you've done a change in the system, and because of that, something broke down. And you have not realized it when you were actually planning a change because you've not thought about it impact analysis. And this is where CMDB comes into play. This is where scheduling a change comes into play. This is where conflict detection will come into play. I'll explain you all of these things in some time. So as a part of this process, you see, first of all, you have to log and schedule a change that, okay, I know why I am doing this change for. You will log it completely in the system with all the details, whatever is required. And you can schedule it. For example, if I want to log a change after 2 weeks, next Saturday, Sunday, I will schedule it accordingly. Now, in the stage of assess, what will happen is my peer teams, my group manager, my peers, they will review the change. They'll assess, okay, has everything been done? Because generally, it is done by some junior people, not so many senior people. They do not raise change. They kind of assess it. See, okay, all is well. We can move ahead. So it is more of, I would say, technical approval or a peer approval or a group level approval, which happens at the assess stage. But they're just saying that, okay, whatever has been put in change makes sense to us. After they have assessed the change and they are okay. If you remember, we saw that in the problem management also. There was a phase for assess, just to see that everything in the problem code is all fine and we are okay to move it forward to root cause analysis. It is not a duplicate one. It is a problem worthy to be addressed. Similarly, they will see all those things, the change report, all looks good. They'll assess, they'll approve it. In this case of authorize approve, the change advisory board, if you remember, we talked about it yesterday, CAB, they come into play. CAB is a group of people which is formed from multiple teams to ensure that this change is good to go in terms of impact analysis. We have done all the governance, we have taken the sign-offs, we have planned the backup plans, we have justified the change why it is not conflicting with any change, we have scheduled it properly, right? And then they will approve this change. The global CAB. You can have a local CAB, you can have a regional CAB, you can have a global CAB, which is fine. But in that CAB, there will be some people who have the authority to approve or reject a change. Once it is all approved by this stage, the change can be implemented. It is scheduled now. So everything is approved. Now it is scheduled for a certain time period. And at that time, you are implementing the change. That whoever is assigned a task for that change is actually working on the task. For example, change some security settings, change some file server settings, reboot the server. Those tasks, you might have different teams working on a change report. Somebody is doing sanity check, somebody is doing the network part, somebody is doing the database part, somebody is doing the server part. So there might be multiple things which are expected in a big change. So you do that implementation here in this particular stage. Once you've done the implementation, you do the post-implementation review, whether everything went well as expected. Yes, everything went well as expected. You're good to go. Perfect. Now, after we have seen everything, we are closing the change saying that It is all successful. We have delivered the outcomes expected from the change. It has not caused any incident. It has not caused any business disruption. So we're good to close this change now. So this is your entire cycle of the change record, change management process. Now to understand it further, in case of changes, you have different types of changes as per ITIL also and as per ServiceNow also. You have a normal change, you have emergency change, you have standard change. Now, standard changes are the ones which have been kind of pre-approved, that you have done these changes multiple times in the past and you're confident now that this change does not cause a problem. It can be done at any point of time. It is just for the record, for the activity check history, that we have done some changes, we are doing it, and then it gives you a very clear plan that, okay, these are the actions you have to take for that standard change, because all of these are documented in the change report. You just need to raise that change. It does not need to be assessed, or it does not need to be authorized. So if you see in this table, this is where I've done a very interesting comparison, that in case of standard change, you do not have to go through assess or authorize stage. Nobody from your peer group is assessing it, evaluating it. Nobody from your change management team is authorizing it. You can directly schedule it, implement it, and close it, because this is done multiple times. It has been established that this is a pre-approved change with a predefined set of steps, with a predefined set of outcomes, no risk involved. We are good to go. So this is the standard change. Now, emergency change. So for example, you generally do emergency changes for two cases. One is that something is already broken. You have a people incident. To resolve it, you have to do emergency change. In that case, there is no need to do assessment, because nobody has a time to do this assessment. So the immediate thing has to be done as an authorization. So there is a concept of ECAP, emergency cap. So there are people who are designated as a part of ECAP, that only for emergency cap, emergency changes, these people will need to authorize it, right? So there are some senior folks who kind of take a call immediately, but you do not need to do the assessment. So, and you implement it immediately. The incident has happened, you have to reboot the server, rebuild the server, or do something immediately, do it immediately at the back of the incident as a part of this emergency change. But you should raise this emergency change for the record for the right reasons. Right? Now, if it is not a standard change, if it is not an emergency change, then whatever change you have, which is not predefined, which is not pre-approved, which is not pre-authorized, which does not happen because of emergency, you do a normal change. Before that, sorry, I was talking about this emergency change. There was one more scenario. One is that your P1 incident has happened already, and because of that, you're doing it. Second is, you know that if I do not do this change by tomorrow, I will have a P1 incident. So you have kind of found out from your monitoring tools, found out from governance cycles, from your other sources that, okay, this security patch has to be implemented today, because if I do not do it by tomorrow, I'll have my systems in trouble. So even in those cases, you can have emergency changes raised. So two cases. One is already there is a P1 incident, a P2 incident, and based on that, you are raising an emergency change. Second, you have a danger of having a P1 or P2 incident if you do not do that change in next 1 or 2 days, whatever time frame is. Generally, for a normal change, you have a scheduled window, you have a scheduled timeline, everything is there. So everything else is normal change. Now, as a part of this automation, standardization, ITIL 4 thing we talked about, lean, agile, DevOps, the idea is to convert most of your normal changes to standard changes. Because the moment you start doing it, you immediately reduce the turnaround time for a standard change, because it does not require assessment, does not require authorization. You can immediately implement it. But you should be cautious enough that those changes have been very well established. Everybody knows the steps around it. These steps are documented in change record. And you have a pre-approved mechanism for that change. Everybody knows what this change is all about, and then only you convert it. So it's not been done in a hurry by default, but then it should be done as a part of optimizing a change management process, that this normal changes should be converted to standard changes as much as possible after thorough analysis and due diligence, not in hurry. It is also important to understand. Now let me go back to system here and tell you. So we have seen all of this, right, already. Now from here, I can create an emergency change. If I create an emergency change, then it will not ask me for authorization state. I can fill in some information. I can take it further. Do you see this here? because it is an emergency change, not an emergency type emergency, if I kind of, okay, now see, there are some things here in the change request. You have justification. Why are you doing this change? First of all, you might have reasons. You should be putting those reasons here, right? What is your impact implementation plan? What are those steps which you are going to take as a part of this change? You will put it here. What is the risk and impact analysis you've done for this change? You will put it here. What is the backout plan, which means if something goes down, what will you do? So this, if you kind of hover a mouse here, it tells you what does it mean, right? So which means that at some point of time, you can realize that no, this change is not going ahead. We have implemented it wrongly. How do you back it out? So you have a backup, you restore that backup. How do you test this change, whether it has been successful or not? Right? All of these are written over here, that what does this mean? What are those tests you will do as a part of confirming that this change is meeting that criteria which you've done? Risk. And for a change, these 5 things are very, 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 very important. If you do not have this, then approvers will ask you these questions any which ways. So it is always important to put the right information here. And that is why change management is the most complex process in ITSM. It is the most important one, I would say, also because it has a lot of stakes around it. As I said, most of the incidents are caused by changes. All those enhancements happen because of changes, right? So you can see this here, incidents caused by change, incidents fixed by change. So maybe when you've implemented this change and you found out that this change failed and created an incident, you can put it here. If you are fixing any incident because of this change, you'll put it here. This is the difference between incidents caused by change and incidents fixed by change. This is to be understood well, right? This is what you do. Now, these are the things you have to kind of put in here very clearly. Schedule. Now, what is that when do you want to do it? Because it's an emergency change, I want to do it like right now. Maybe in, so I'll do it right now, maybe 0000. This is US time zone. That is why it is taking that time right now. So, right, and I'm saying 030000. This is my planned start date and date. Do I need a cap? Emergency change, you can ask, yeah, I want a cap. Generally, you don't need a cap for emergency because it goes directly for approval. You can't wait for caps in these cases. Now, if you save it. Now, what happens next is you have to skip these stages of assessment. You click on request approval, a scheduling conflict detected. And here you can see, what is that conflict? Not in maintenance window. So there are 2 concepts in change management. One is maintenance window, one is blackout window. When I say maintenance window, that is that time frame when your services are supposed to be in maintenance and you can implement any changes. So recommended practices that you should always implement a change only during maintenance windows, because that is the purpose of maintenance windows, that they are done for maintaining the applications, any changes. If it is happening on if I have defined a blackout window, then blackout window means that you cannot implement a change at the time because it is a freeze period. So you must have heard of this terminology in a company called as freeze period. Now, freeze period means you are not supposed to do any changes. So if you do anything in the blackout window or the freeze period, you will have to get some more approvals. Even in this case, it is telling you that since this is not in maintenance window, there is a conflict. You should not be doing this change. But then I will do this change because it is an emergency change right now. So for me, my system is already down. So I have to make it up. So I have to do it any which way, right? I can see conflict calendar here. I can see a lot of things here, which means I will need to do this change because it is an emergency change. Had it been a normal change, I would have changed my schedule here based on this conflict detected. Okay, it is not in maintenance window. So let me do this in maintenance window. And if you have defined this maintenance window, either at a global level or you have defined it for a CI level or a service level, this is where it is conflicting. So I have defined those maintenance windows or freeze blackout windows at a CI level or a service level. I can do that. I can see the conflict calendar from here. Now there is one more thing, which is called a risk and impact assessment. So there is a way you can do it manually or you can do it automatically. Expected is that you should be calculating risk automatically, because if you do it manually, then everybody will calculate it their style. So here you have this risk high, moderate, low. There are a standard set of questions which are there in system, which allows you to calculate risk automatically. Based on the risk calculation, risk has been set to high and impact remains unchanged. View details. So, right, so there are some conditional rules. I should be able to see those rules here. Maybe it is emergency. There is an option to calculate risk, which I clicked on, and there itself, I get to see the questions. And based on that, I get to see the answer. I can submit my answers. It is not happening right now. See. Otherwise, what happens is when I click on calculate risk, it gives me a set of questions. And based on the questions, I submit my answers, and based on that, it automatically calculates the risk. I am not sure why edit risk conditions. Let me see what are the conditions applied in this change. So yeah, there are these questions, for example, insufficient lead time, critical service change, all of these things. But then you can define this. I think in the out of the box system, they've not defined it so well. But in your system, you can define it like, do you have a sign off? Do you know if it can cause an incident if it is not implemented well? Do you have a backup plan? All of those questions are answered. And based on that, the system auto calculates the risk, and you can configure that calculation here. I click on request approval. Okay, so mandatory field is not filled in, that is why. I've clicked on request approval and request, it'll go to authorized state. It will skip the assess state because it's an emergency change. If it was a normal change, it would have gone to assess stage first, the first level approval for the team members, the peers, and then it goes to second level approval, which is that one, right? I've come here, refresh service has been initiated now. See this, you have got the list of approvals. All of these are CAB approvals. Now they've done a setting where if in a particular group, you have multiple group members, it will go to everybody. But if one of them approves it, which means everybody, it will be considered as approved by the CAB, because not everybody has to approve it individually. Now it is done, approval is done. That is why it has gone to scheduled stage, which means everybody now knows that this change is scheduled, state is scheduled, and when it's going to happen. It's going to happen this time, this time. Now the teams who are assigned this change can see it from here. We can assign it to an individual here, as well as we can create change tasks. So if it is a change which requires multiple teams to be taking steps, you can create those tasks and they can do their respective parts. Once they've done it, they will implement it. And now they are already at that time period when they're actually implementing the change. So once it is done, they click on implement change. Once they're implementing it, you can see the state has been changed to implement in the backend. These are some out of the box flows which are happening. Now you can configure them based on whatever you want to do. I am getting these warnings, but then
hello.
Okay. Just 1 second, please.
Yeah.
Talking about it, and then you see implement. So state has been changed to implement already. Now I have done the change. I am now reviewing it. Okay, whatever I have done, was it done correctly or not? So all of these things are happening as per this state we talked about. After implementation, we are doing the post-implementation review. And during post-implementation review, we are saying that, yeah, all looks well. Whatever we wanted to do this change for, we have done it. We are all good. There was a problem reports. Can you see out of the box also, there are 2 tasks, one for implementation, one for post-implementation. We have done everything. We have reviewed. We are good with the change. Now it has got those benefits. It is in state review. Now we are closing this change. Now, because we're closing it, we have to put some closure notes, closure information. We are successfully implemented. And we are sorted. Close. This change is closed. So we see the entire life cycle change here from new to close. This change is closed now. Now, only thing which will happen for normal change, you will have even assessment stage where you'll have some initial approvals for a team, for peer groups. And for standard changes, you will skip these 2 things and it will automatically be there. For example, I'll just show you a quick one for standard change. So if I were to raise a change, if I go here, create a new change, I can select from standard here. And if you remember, I said earlier that standard changes means that it is a predefined template, pre-approved thing, which is happening here. And I can kind of So these are the standard changes. Can you see this? Add network switch, pre-approved. These are all pre-approved changes. Reboot Windows Server. So it will automatically fill a lot of things for me. See this. See this. All of these things have been filled in your implementation plan, your backout plan, test plan, because we have done this change multiple times. And because of that, you just have to schedule this change. After filling some basic information, you have to schedule this change and topic closed. You don't have to ask for any approval here. Assess, authorize. No need to do anything, because you already know all of those things. It will automatically be scheduled, direct schedule, right? Maybe the group is not filled in. After filling the group, I'll mark on schedule. Change is scheduled automatically. It is standard type change. They're all good. Don't have to worry about anything, because all of these things are already mentioned. So this is where you implement. This is where you have mentioned the implementation steps. Now, how do you create a standard change? Again, a very simple thing. These are the templates you already have. Now you can create your own template and you can submit it here. For example, I create a template completely here and I say that please approve this template, and I'll ask for approval. I'll fill in some information which is required for this change every time. So if you remember, everything was auto-filled earlier. So based on that, I'll fill this information, whatever I think should be required every time. What are the values for this change? What is the description plan, backout plan, test plan? What is the proposal? Once it is done, I'll request approval and the change manager will approve this. Okay, I am okay to make it as a standard change. So for going forward, it will come in that menu of standard change. When I come here and I click on standard change catalog, I can see these changes here. So one more change will be added here. So you can, from here, you can propose a new standard change and they can approve it. So this is the entire life cycle of change management, where they can propose a standard change and people can start using it going forward. I think I am done with my topics of incident prompt change. This class is also completed from my side. The only thing we have to do now is till the next class, which is the question and answer and next steps. Any questions you have? I'll stop the recording now.